Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to do another episode of Let's Make a Movie. And I just have one big topic to focus on, and honestly, I probably should have done like a weekly update video. At the same time, I do want to make kind of an announcement because I feel like I have been learning a lot, and I feel like I can kind of share that in like an educational type of way. And so I am going to be opening up a Patreon and or Gumroad. Gumroad is a place where you can buy like video files and video downloads from people and things like that. And then Patreon is something where you subscribe per month to get access to tiers with videos and such. And I've had a lot of really like fun ideas and stuff, and I've just been thinking like I need to come up with some more ways that I can make money with my art so that I can be more reliant on that and I don't even have to DoorDash or do anything else to earn money, because it's like I should be earning, money from what I do, from what I like to do. And so I want to find like a solid, like stable way that I can start doing that. And so a lot of the stuff that I could talk about, I'll talk about in very explicit detail in the Gumroad / Patreon stuff. I'm still kind of figuring out what I'm going to do, still kind of figuring out where I'm going to start and, all that crap. So anyways, I am here to talk about County Fear because over the past month or more, I have been very busy and I have been working on a short film. Because, a lot of filmmakers and a lot of people, too, they've told me, Marco, make a short film. And, you have a lot of filmmakers and they're like, don't make a full movie. Start and make a short movie first. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to put all these people to shame and I'm going to make a short movie while I'm in the middle of making 2 feature movies. Just to like demonstrate how easy it is if you just like, put a little bit of work into it. And yeah, so I've actually just finished County Fear. It was a very, very interesting experience because the way that I thought about things before filming is completely different to how I think about things now. I've changed a lot from this experience. And then also, before I started making this, the people that I worked with, I have one person whom I consider to be like my closest collaborator. And I had another person who helped, and I thought that they were kind of like a distant kind of like, we're not really close. But it's funny because now I feel like it's the exact opposite. I feel like the person who is closest is now, I'll never be working with them again. And then the other person, she is like closer than anyone. And so it's just pretty hilarious how that works out. That's what the film industry is like. It's very bizarre, and you have a lot of bizarre people. Like, I'll tell you this thing, guys, because I wanna be kind of transparent, but also kind of just give a little something here and there. Last year, there was one actor who he was very experienced, and I really enjoyed working with him. And then he was kind of cool, and but then he ended up like turning against me and quitting because of the whole casting website debacle that happened. And he acted like the moral like authority who was like, oh, like, I'm professional and I can't be involved with you. And, and then he flaked. He flaked at the last minute. And so, like a piece of shit. And, well, that guy, here's how weird, and this just goes to show you, too, when you hire actors, you are shooting in the dark. Okay? And that's why it's so tough. Because every time you go to set, you're meeting new people, and potentially those people are Nazis, because this guy, he was starting to like send me messages all the time and send me pictures of stuff. Like on Halloween, he just randomly showed me a picture of like this Halloween candy that he got to hand out, and it was like some of the shittiest candy that you can buy. And but he sent me a picture. He had in display in his house Nazi memorabilia, Nazi medals, and he had it like proudly on display. Like this is like some fucking like O.J. Simpson shit, like with the detective from the O.J. case. And I was like, oh my God, I have gotten involved with a literal Nazi. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. And I should have taken the red flag, because he's German. But, I thought, I mean, I'm part German, but like, it just goes to show, though, again, like there's lots of weird people that you come across. And I don't know why he was so proud of it, too. He was like, look, this is, and he just like would send me these weird pictures like that. And it's like, okay, like, you're the moral authority, but you have Nazi memorabilia on display in your house. Like, yeah, that's kind of that's not a good look. I mean, that guy's not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. But anyways, that's beside the point. So I decided to make this short film for a variety of reasons. Number one, I'm going to sell it. And I'm going to be, putting it in festivals. I'm going to be selling it on Gumroad or Patreon or both. And then number two, the filmmaker friend in New Orleans, she wants to do a potathon so that she can raise money for the movie that she wants me to come and direct with her and her husband. And so that's my contribution, is this one big short film. With me, it's go big or go home. It's the bigger the better. I'm not really one to just make something tight and lean and small. I like to, give you like the big one, the big scoop, the big ice cream scoop. And so, lastly, I will say that I think that it was actually, looking back, a really good idea, because after, I've been trying to make movies since 2017, for real, and I think it was just good to finally, like, make something. And it's done. It's completed. All I have to do is, finish editing it, make music, make a trailer, and then, yeah, that's pretty much it. And so, like, it's just cool because now it seems like I see that it's able to be done. It's not so hard. It's just that feature films are like one giant short film. And so, yeah, I actually, after finishing the short film, I kind of have mixed feelings about recommending people to start off making a short film, because, I thought I was only going to do like 2 filming days total to make County Fear, but I ended up taking like over a month by shooting just 1 to 2 days every week for a month or so. So 7 days total. That's a week. That's a week out of the year. There's 52 weeks in a year. So that's a 52th of the year. And so, but at the same time, I feel like even though you get that satisfaction of like, oh, I completed something. It was really easy. It was just a little short film, 22 pages. Like, even though you get that, all a feature movie is like 4 short films in one. So it really all has to do with will and scheduling and, just persistence. Because, like, I think that that's one of the biggest things that I learned from making this short film is scheduling. Because, like, you want to schedule really smart, and you want to be able to take your time and do a really good job. You want to be able to, give each sequence its due. And you also don't want to have to break things up, because I think that was one of the biggest pains in the asses of the whole shoot, was having to break up sequences over weeks. Like, oh, let's come back and finish. Because what would happen is we would forget lines, and we would forget shots that we needed to get. So then we had to go back another time. So that was a big thing. Like, scheduling, I think that I really underestimated too. I made this short movie all take place mostly in a park. And I really underestimated that. I really underestimated having to go to the park. But you know what's really interesting, guys? Because I've had, you guys know, I've had terrible allergy problems. What's really interesting, though, is that every single day I went to this park to shoot, I didn't have a single allergy problem the whole day, except for maybe like 30 minutes here and there, and it would go away and I would be fine. And so, like, I really, really think that the reason why I have such bad allergies is because of my room. And then I also think anxiety is tied into that. So I think that's really interesting, And so the way that I kind of came up with this short film, I'll tell like a very short version of the story, because I want to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of making the movie, and then a couple of fun stories of what happened, and then my thoughts about completing it finally. So you guys know last year I worked with a very unfortunate collaborator called the Beat Sheet Queen. Well, that's my nickname for her, which that's something that I would recommend, guys, is that, a lot of people think that it's not good to do so much shit talking, but the truth is that the way that magic works is, as long as you're not saying a person's name explicitly, if you come up with like a nickname for them, that does the damage. But if you say their names, their real names, that's when it becomes an issue, and that's when the magic actually backfires. So, because that's what happened last year with the casting website incident, and I shouldn't have done that. I said the person's name, and so that's why it backfired. But the Beat Sheet Queen, she was like, trying to cozy up to me and all this stuff, and she did a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to go through all that right now. But she wanted me to direct this short movie called The Midnight Escape, because you see, originally, she was supposed to shoot The Midnight Escape in April or March, and then she came to film with me in May of last year. Well, what happened was, she read the script, and she went to the director. She went and had coffee with him, and she told him, your movie sucks, your script sucks, and it's bad, it's garbage, and I'm not going to be in the project unless you let me take a break and then rewrite the entire script myself. And then we use that. So she basically bullied him into, doing that. And so what happened was, she wrote another script, and the script was just as bad as his. I mean, it really wasn't very much better. Like, at least it had kind of a story. You know, his script, it was definitely written by AI. It was just very clearly like just a bunch of random shit. But hers was also terrible. And it was very much like lacking in horror. And it was just lacking in anything interesting. Like, there was this mystery, but the mystery was already solved at the beginning of the movie. So, therefore, it should be suspense. But there was no suspense because, you know, she didn't know how to write suspense because she doesn't watch movies. She watches TikTok. So, you know, that was a big failure. And so I read her script, I read his script, and I thought, okay, I'll direct this because, you know, at the time, you know, we were kind of, you know, gonna get together. And then what happened was she broke things off and she, you know, tried to then assert control over the movie still, even though she had done that. And she tried to kind of like use that as a way to, you know, just take control of the movie, for real. And if I didn't follow along with what she wanted to do, she would just, you know, pretend to be a victim. And so she did something in June where, you know, she was supposed to come film for a week, and then she made this big ass excuse about how she couldn't come to film because, you know, because of me, you know, because I'm such a problem. But then it turned out that the real reason is because she wanted to go take a personal vacation to New York to take pictures of herself in Times Square. So it was all like a personal agenda. And then what I ended up doing, though, is I thought, you know what, if I still direct this short movie, which I don't know, I should have just quit right then and there. But I was trying to be professional, you know. Despite how unprofessionally she behaved and how awful she was. And how ungrateful she was, too. She was so ungrateful. Such a cunt. And I thought, you know, I'm going to make the greatest opening sequence ever. The opening credits sequence ever. And it's going to be the best part of the movie. So at least when people watch this movie, they'll know that I did the opening credits. So I came up with the idea of doing like a carnival opening credits sequence where it would just be like, oh, I won't spoil it, but I kind of inspired it off of Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. So I went and did that for free. I didn't get any payment for it or anything. I went to the carnival twice, shot a beautiful opening credits sequence. And still, her and the director, the original director, producer guy, they just kind of sat around and didn't do anything. And then she came back one last weekend to film. And I don't know why I let her do that either, but it was funny, though, you know, because she complained about staying here, and then she came here to stay for a whole weekend and didn't have a problem. And then she even admitted that later on a text message. So, you know, I mean, she was just very, very much like a manipulative control freak. And so the short movie just kind of sat and nothing happened with it. And then all of a sudden, she decided she wanted to do a hostile takeover of the short movie and then remake it again, but this time make it like a carnival movie. And then she asked me to come up with the title, you know, because she wasn't creative, so she couldn't come up with anything herself. So, you know, I came up with the name County Fear. And she was like, okay, great, now I'll go write a script, you know, because she thought she was a creative or something. And so then I just kind of sat around waiting for her to do that. And then finally, I just decided, you know what, I'm sick and tired of this bitch. She tried to ruin my movie. She tried to do a lot of horrible things. And she wasted like my whole year last year. So I just decided to get rid of her. And I decided, you know what, though? I don't want that beautiful opening credits sequence to go to waste. So I'm going to make my own damn short film, and I'm going to take it away from her. She wants to make County Fear. Well, good luck with that, because it's copyrighted now. It's actually copyrighted, and it has been registered with the WGA, Writers Guild Association, which is just proof that it's mine. So, she is never going to be able to do this project ever, thanks to me. So I was glad that I decided to do that, because it just felt good. It just felt good to, have something finally be mine officially, because it's the only thing that I've really copyrighted so far. And I think that is a good thing to do as a filmmaker, to copyright your work. So I then needed to come up with a story. And by the way, too, I had another magazine article, and I also thought it would be good to get some behind-the-scenes pictures for this article. And I had a week. I only had a week to come up with pictures to do whatever I needed to do. Excuse me. And I needed to come up with a story for this short movie. And what happened was, the first day, I couldn't come up with anything. I was so, in a funk, and I just couldn't think, and I was just spewing out pages, and it didn't work at all. But it was actually really good for me, I think, because I was forced to, to come up with ideas in a flow. And I was forced to, try to figure out how to get into a creative flow, which just means, to get in the mood to write. And I figured out the easiest way to cure writer's block and to get into the flow is to just do other stuff, and to just not care about, I have a deadline, I need to write. Because then as soon as you do that, you're basically tricking your mind into getting into a more peaceful, relaxed state. And then that's when the ideas come out. And that's what happened. I finished the short script in 2 days. Easy. Took me 2 seconds. And basically the story, I'm not going to get too much into it, obviously, because I don't want to spoil the short movie that I just spent a whole month on working on. It's all about a girl who goes to this kind of abandoned park area to try to figure out what happened at this old theme park that she went to as a kid. Because she's basically going through the remnants of an abandoned theme park and trying to figure out, what happened? Was I actually here as a kid? Because this is a theme park that, nobody else remembers. It's a theme park that, she thought that she went to, but she doesn't know, if it actually existed. And it just, she's, been treated like she's crazy over the years. And so it's just her going on this adventure to find out what happened. And that's all that I will say for now. And yeah, I thought I needed to come up with a story that was very minimalistic, but also was very epic. And that was my version of minimalistic but epic. And I originally was going to get access to a real theme park, and it actually was featured in the movie Bones and All, because my lead actress, Savvy, she used to work at that theme park, and she was going to get me access to that park. But then I decided, I'm going to film at the park that I'm going to film Dead House at, because I really, really love that park location. So yeah, then I planned on making the short movie in the 2 days, and that was probably one of my biggest mistakes. because it just, making a 22-page short film in 2 days, it's just asking for problems, because you don't want to rush. And there's a lot of people, they want to rush. There's this one guy on YouTube. He talked about like how he made a whole film in a day, and it's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing anything like that. That's stupid. And so, but like at first, I kind of wanted to do something like that and just rushing to get this done. And so what happened was, on the first 2 days, there was a bunch of stuff that we didn't finish. And then I was like, oh no, we'll just finish it next week. And then next week came, and we were only supposed to film the one day, I think. And then that turned into another day. And then I was like, oh, nope, there's still stuff we need to do. And also, we need to redo a couple of things, too. So come back next week. And then finally, one last time, I was like, okay, this is going to be the last time. There's just a few things that we missed. Wink, wink. And so then we had to come back one last time. And then, oh, yeah, one of the guys wasn't there the second to last time because he got sick. So then I had to wait one more week just to finish up his shots alone. So yeah, just goes to show, scheduling smart is better than scheduling how I did. Because, it caused a lot of problems. It caused problems like forgetting lines. And also time consistency with like, oh, does the lighting look the same today versus that last week or the other week? Like, it just, there's too many variables that you have to worry about. So I am actually really glad that experience happened, because it just gave me like a really good like lesson in learning about scheduling, and also too, just setting the expectations with people so that, they're not complaining about like, oh, I don't want to have to come back another week. Me. You want to set the expectation, because, not everyone is going to be like enthusiastic about continuously coming back to film, unless they were like, okay, I knew it was going to be X amount of days of shooting, So I'm trying to figure out what all I should talk about, because I know there's one big topic I'll talk about, because I hinted at it. I was hinting the other week, talking about an outburst, and so I definitely will talk about that. But also, I would say another lesson I had to learn. I'll just take a drink of water. You guys can hear my throat's drying up, and I'm just about to... It's storming outside, and I got my fan going, my wireless fan, and the dehumidifier's on, and the air purifier's on, and I am not RFK Jr. right now. Okay, now I sound a little bit better. Ooh, that went down the wrong way. Okay. It's probably just allergies. Once again, allergies strikes again. But anyways, I really enjoyed shooting the first 2 days. I felt really bad. Savvy, she can tell the story herself, but she had catastrophe after catastrophe happen on this shoot. The first day that we shot, her car broke down 10 minutes after we finished shooting for like 10 hours. Because these were 10-hour days. 10 hours a day for 7 times. So that's 70 hours. And her car broke down, so she was pretty much like, she had to spend like her entire night getting that taken care of, getting fixed, and then she hardly got any sleep. And then the second week that she came, we went to Penn Station, because we ate at Penn Station the first week and we really liked it. So we went back, and they were on their off day. They did not give me the option to have white or multigrain bread, so that was a big red flag. And they gave her something she was allergic to, I think, or something that was rotten. So she had severe food poisoning the second week. And so the second week, that was probably our worst week of filming, because the first day she got food poisoned, and we couldn't finish. We couldn't hardly do anything that day because she was so sick. She had horrible stomach cramps, and then she had some other things that happened that I don't want to say explicitly on camera, but, just bad food poisoning stuff. And then the second day on the second week was the outburst day, so that was pretty much like a climactic moment, and so I guess I probably should get to that now. I don't know. I'm probably not going to say too much about it in this video. I'll say a lot about it in the content that you can buy, because I think then, I can get into more detail, and probably what I could do is I could just use it as like a good example of how to deal with conflict on set or something. Because what happened was, there's this actor, and I use the word actor in a very liberal way because, the acting just isn't very good. It isn't very strong. And he had been exhibiting a lot of red flags over the course of the months. So, for instance, he would show up to set and admit that he hadn't even read the script. Or he would show up to set and be like, oh, I didn't know what we were doing today. Basically, every single time. And he would do just a lot of really, really bad things, like, there was this one time we were doing this special effect, and it's something you got to be really delicate with, and he was pressing down on it, so it was like lifting up, and you could clearly see that it was a special effect. It looked so fake and bad, and it's like, but just carelessness. And there were a lot of other things too. Like, here's a big red flag. When you're a creative guy, you have good ideas, whenever there's someone who doesn't take the good idea, that's usually the big red flag, because it shows that the person is too stupid to see a great idea. So it shows that they're not creative and they're not really meant to do this line of work. Because I gave this guy probably one of the greatest film pitches ever. And I gave it to him as a vehicle where he could star in the movie himself. And it would have been like an award-winning, epic movie. And still, I'll just make it myself. I mean, I'll get someone else to do the main role. But, and see, this is what happens too. Like, when I can't be in the main role, you have someone like him who, he makes a problem, and so then, it's now absent. It's now a vacant role. But he just kind of acted like it wasn't like his thing. And then he was like, I want to be in a movie where I'm like a gang member or something. Like, it's just like, like this just, it's just so stupid. And he was telling me, like, if you were typecast, if Hollywood cast you in roles, what types of roles do you think they would cast you in? And instead of him saying, like, okay, like, you should fight against that, he's basically saying that, like, I should just do what Hollywood wants me to do. And that's what he wants to do, is, like, play in to some kind of a stereotype that, that he thinks that Hollywood would cast him as. So, Yeah, big red flags. And it was funny because before we started filming, I really didn't want him to be on set on the days that I was shooting at the park with Savvy, my lead actress, because I saw his behavior and I knew that he was getting to be a problem. But then there were other times where I would be like, no, like he's actually really cool and really helpful. And so I just kind of thought like, okay, like people aren't perfect, so I'll give him a shot. So I let him be there with us the full time shooting, and he caused a lot of problems. And he continued to just kind of do the same stuff that he always did. Not really try to improve, and also just kind of showing that disrespect too by saying like, oh, I haven't even read the script yet, like just really bizarre. So anyways, the second week we were all really tired, and he had already been saying like very disrespectful stuff like, I don't want this to drag out for like 5 weeks. And it's like, I'm sorry, but that's just not your decision to make. You're not the director. You know that we're trying to do as much as we can each day we film. It's not like we're wasting time. And so for him to say something like that was already kind of like, well, then he would also say, we do a lot of BSing. Which means we talk shit and we have fun. We enjoy ourselves because that's the environment that I create. The environment that the dumb fuck casting website Ohio Casting Calls said that they didn't like. They don't like the environment that I'm creating. Well, the environment is a very relaxed, focused, and fun environment. It's laid back, it's funny, it's chill, and they don't like that. They think that it should be like hell, and it should be torture, and, all these other things, and, I should be following, quote-unquote, the rules, which, you think about, like, the arts is probably the number one profession where you don't want to follow the rules. Because it's so contrary to the field itself as rules. But he was saying we do a lot of BSing. And it would be better if we got all our work done and then we BS'd after we finished our work. And it's like, again, well, okay, that's your opinion, but that's not your decision to make. And, So I should have, just come down with the hammer in these times where he would kind of do these disrespectful things. And wow, it is really rainy and windy out. Holy shit. That's insane. But what ended up happening is we were setting up for the first shot of the day. And he was describing a scene that he really liked. And he said that He didn't even know what the scene was. He didn't even know the actor in the scene. So he was saying that it was Dan Hardy in Sons of Anarchy. and I was able to, figure out it was Tom Hardy in the Bike Riders movie. And so that's just how, slow this guy was. He just was so just not there. But he was describing this scene, and he was saying that these guys were threatening Dan Hardy. And they were saying, if you don't take off your jacket, we're going to cut your dick off. But then he corrected himself and said, foot. And it was so hilarious that he would say, it was so random to say, this guy's going to get his dick cut off in a motorcycle movie. And so Savvy and I laughed about this for 5 minutes, and he started to get angry, and he was saying yeah, it was funny, but I'm not going to drag it out for 28 more minutes. And then I laughed again, and then all of a sudden, that's when he kind of like fell apart. And I was setting up the shot too, but he fell apart, and he threw this big bitch baby tantrum. This guy is 50 years old. He's got white and gray hair, even though he's bald. He threw a tantrum and had a fit. And he was saying that her and I had been bullying him on set by just, joking around with him. And, it was such a giant bullshit tantrum. And he was saying the most bizarre things, like he was pacing around. His eyes were really big and wide. He was stuttering. He wasn't letting us talk. And he was saying things like, I gave you my life, which is just the most retarded thing I've ever heard. Like, I'm sorry, like, if you think that you're giving me your life, you can go fuck yourself, okay? I don't want your stupid life, okay? Like, I want you to come to my set and be a respectful adult and do your fucking work, okay? I don't give a fuck about your life. You're a fucking actor, and so he was also saying, like, if we won't let him be vulnerable and having this outburst, then he doesn't want to work in that type of an environment. So he was basically just trying to, blame me and make me out to be some horrible person, and this is what always happens, guys. Always. This is what always happens with these fucking people who cause problems on my set, is that since I'm a one-man crew, everything is always my fault. Everything is always, I'm bad. I have a bad working environment. I'm a bad person, bad this, bad that. And it's always the same. Always. So he was trying to say, like, Marco, how do you know that you've never made another actor felt this way? And I didn't want to embarrass him, but I was like, you want me to go through every single person I've worked with and explain in explicit detail? And what made this even more bizarre is that the night before, we were working on a scene, and Savvy took like 5 minutes to just compliment me and say she really enjoyed working with me, and that like every filming day is like the most fun thing ever. It's very relaxed. And so it was so weird how after that, all of a sudden, like, he has this outburst, acting like I'm some sort of a horrible person, and he was saying a lot of weird shit, though, like really, really weird. I remember every single thing he said because I have a really good memory, but I thought what was really funny was the fact that he thought that he was gonna, like, intimidate me or something. Like, that's what it was really all about. And that's what really irritated me in thinking about it, is that I figured out this wasn't even about us making fun of him, quote unquote. This was about him trying to assert control so that we wouldn't, joke around while we're working on set. Because later on in the day, after he would apologize and, exhibit, like, abuser behavior, which is like, he does something really bad and then he over-apologizes, he started saying things like, see how much work we got done? Wow. And it's like he was trying to excuse his bad behavior by saying, look at how much work we got done. And there are two things that just really, really just don't fit well with that. And number one, we got the same amount of work done that we would have gotten without him having the outburst. But number two, he complained about us wasting time, but he spent an entire hour of our shoot day ranting and raving and not doing any work. And it was just so insulting, and I just stood there. I defended every single last little thing that he said. I didn't let him, say one damn thing, because I've just gotten sick and tired of these fucking pieces of shit frauds and these people who I work with who think that they can come to my set and then just, put all their problems on me and blame me for every single little thing and make all this shit up. And so I just stood there and defended myself for like an hour, and I did not give a fuck. And you know how this whole interaction ended? First off, he threatened to leave. He said, "Oh, I'll just go make movies with other people. I won't have a problem." Even though he hasn't been able to make his own short movie for a whole year, when he's been talking about it, he's like, "Oh, I'll just make movies with other people." So, how it ended, though, was that he went outside. And keep in mind, I stood firmly. I stood in the exact same spot. I didn't move an inch. I kept a hand behind my back just to show. It was like a power stance. It was like, look at me, like, I'm so unintimidated and unimpressed by this. I've got one hand behind my back. Like, I could fuck you up with one hand if you try to hurt me or hurt my actress. So, because it did seem like for a while too, like he might get physical, and I was ready to defend her. And also just, that would have been really bad too, because he would have learned not to underestimate a big guy. Because sometimes big guys are more brutal than skinny athletic guys. So the way that it ended was he went outside and he started crying all by himself. So as you guys can see, I am the one who won that interaction in a decisive victory, because he went outside and he cried all by himself. And, I won't say anything about Savvy because I don't want to speak for her or how she was, because she was crying. He made her cry, but it was just so disturbing. But I was the only one who didn't cry, because I didn't give a fuck. Like, he was just saying all this bullshit, and it's like, sorry, you're not going to make me feel bad over something that isn't true. And so what I did was I just changed the rest of the day how I acted to him. And I was very quiet, and I basically just got the day over with so that I could get him out and never work with him again, never talk to him again. So immediately after he left, I fired him from the vampire movie. So he was originally going to be in that, not anymore. And so just it was a huge failure for him. It was basically like his downfall as a person and a character was like, oh, I'm just going to go to this guy's set and have an outburst and not control myself, even though I'm 50 fucking years old. And you know what else is really embarrassing? Is that later in the day, he admitted that it wasn't even us that set him off. So, that's scary too, because it's like, oh, well, you had an outburst over other things that aren't even related to us. And you thought it would be acceptable to behave like that. It's horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. And it was even more insulting that he thought that they would allow this on other sets. Because if I had a security guard or security guards, I would have had him thrown off. Like, he would have been fired right then and there. You think a Disney set would let a 50-year-old man-child have an outburst and a tantrum and pace around like a little bitch? No fucking way. Sorry. So it ended up to where Savvy and I and James, we had to finish up by ourselves. And to me, that was actually when filming got slightly better. it felt a lot more like it was returning to my vision. And another thing I had to learn was that, when you work with people, you're going to get a lot of people who have their own ideas. And what happens is those ideas don't fit the vision. So what either happens is you let those people, do their ideas, and it's kind of a waste of time. And then you end up having to redo shots because, they just weren't done how they were supposed to be done. And they don't fit, because there's a shot list, there's a script, it's all supposed to fit together. There's not room for improv or for a lot of that kind of thing. But that was another lesson too, is that, the better option is to stand firm. There were a couple of times where actors would kind of, they were kind of confused about why I wanted them to do certain things. And, the thing is that if you're an actor, it's all about trust. You have to trust the director to do whatever they're telling you to do. And so I had to be completely unwavering in my vision. And I just had to stand my ground. And that was, I think, this whole experience, though, it was a great learning lesson for me because I'll admit it, guys, I wasted a lot of time this year. I filmed with this one bitch in February. She was horrible, unprofessional. She came to set 5 hours late both days. She refused to do things in the script that she signed a contract for. She didn't even read the script before she came here. And I just let her, be here and waste my time for 2 whole days. And it was horrible. And then I had another girl come here and she did a similar thing where she was trying to change everything in the script because she wasn't, it turned out that she wasn't really ready to, act in like a romantic role. She wanted to have this kind of like, it was almost like a children's play. It was just very childish and just bad. And, she was just changing things in the whole script. And I wasted 3 whole days of filming with her. And it was horrible. And I'm sick and tired of wasting filming time with these people who just, they do not deserve the time or the patience or anything. They don't even deserve to get paid. So, I've had to learn the hard way that when you're a director, you need to stand your ground and not let your set or your movie be disrespected. That's another thing too. I've had before where, we were shooting a sequence and this person, the way that she was kind of acting was like the shoot was bad for some reason, even though it wasn't. And so I kind of just started to like insult my own like filming. And I was saying like, oh, I know this was a really chaotic shoot. And it's like, why am I insulting my own filming day just because I had a couple of things go wrong? It turned out, by the way, that the footage was actually mostly really good. So, when you're in a position of power like a director, you need to be a director, okay? Like, no matter, like, what happens with, this soft, weak society, weak people, weak actors, you need to be the strong director who takes charge, because that's how a movie gets made. A movie doesn't get made by being diplomatic with people who, they never talk to you outside of filming, hardly, unless they're like friendly with you. Like, these are people who don't give a shit about you. All they care about is themselves. All they care about is getting a credit, getting paid, getting clout. They don't care about the vision. They don't care about the art. And so that was a big thing for me too, is like, I've got to protect the vision from people. I've got to protect the film and make sure that, every single day that like we're not wasting time. But I did kind of waste some time here and there. And I ended up, just getting everything that I needed at the end, though, because that's another thing, too, is that I think that I've been really hard on myself, making certain mistakes, probably because of all the pressure and because I've had so many other people just act like everything is my problem and I'm horrible and, I've done this and that. And it's like, I've had to kind of just learn that, like, they can go fuck themselves, and that, like, if the movie gets done, that's all that matters. Is that a chicken outside? Is that a fucking chicken? What the hell? Oh, no, okay, it's geese. Okay, I thought, like, is there a chicken walking outside? There's all these geese now, and they're in the grass so that they can try to get worms. That's funny. That's so funny. I love the place where my bedroom is like located, because you can look outside at the grass, and I got a big bush too. I like big bushes. I don't like sometimes they trim it too much, and it just, I prefer to have a big bush, just the bigger the better, because it's like an adventure, it's like an adventurous bush, I mean, you don't want to, you don't want a trimmed bush, you don't want, I hope they never get rid of the bush, because if they get rid of the bush, that would be the worst thing, because it would feel like, wait, is this room for kids or is it for adults? I mean, is it... But okay, anyways, back to the scheduled programming. The biggest issue that I ended up having with finishing up the film with Savvy is that when you're working in a park and you're hiking around, we had to hike to get to these locations. It was like filming the Blair Witch Project every week, twice, which I gotta say, I want to go back to that park. Like, I want to be there all the time, because I didn't have any allergy problems. I didn't have any anxiety. I just felt really good being in the park and being in nature. But you end up getting really tired. And so Savvy and I, we would get really tired, and it would end up being like, okay, like, let's just get things done. And then we would make mistakes that we would have to come back and atone for, and, and redo things and shoot additional shots. So I had to kind of learn too about eating strategically, because like, when you're filming all day, and if you eat the wrong things at lunch, they're going to completely fuck you up the rest of the day. And so there was one day where I actually ate Wendy's before I went to shoot with her. I had a whole meal at Wendy's. And then we had a fruit tray throughout the day. And that was like perfect. It was like everything. It was amazing. Like, I never felt any dip in energy. Whereas the first 2 weeks we would, film, eat lunch, and then we would film and be really, really tired. And so that was our biggest issue, I think. And then, yeah, I think that's basically it about all the things that I could say right now. But, like, yeah, there were a lot of other things. It was just a very, very good learning experience. And it was really, really, like, so much happened. Like, I feel like I could probably do a 5-hour podcast. 5 to 10 hours. Just talking about all the things that happened. And I will say that, like, I'm really grateful, because, like, I'm really excited to help Savvy, my lead actress, with her own short film, because that's what I've kind of always wanted to do with making movies, is like not just to make my own movies, but kind of create like a community of people that like I help, everyone accomplish what they want to accomplish. That's why it was so like frustrating when that outburst happened, because like these are the two people that guy, the two biggest people that you would not want to piss off because of how much we were trying to help him and trying to, build his career with him, and, make good movies and shit. And so it just, now I'm going to be helping her, and I'm never going to be giving him any help. He was going to have me make a short movie with him, and it's like, no thanks, not anymore, because, like, I could never, like, rightfully trust him on set again. Having an outburst over nothing, over no actual issue. And there was one thing that I forgot to say that he also said, and I will be going into full detail in the behind-the-scenes content that you can buy pretty soon. Later on in the day, instead of really saying he was sorry, he said, yeah, I'm sorry. But instead of being really sorry about it, he said something that was really, really interesting. And he said, I shouldn't have yelled at you guys. I should have just told you to calm down a couple of times. This is a 50-year-old man saying that he thinks that he's going to tell me to calm down. Meaning, like, I guess I'm not allowed to joke around. I'm not allowed to have fun on my own movie set. It's like, who the fuck do you think you are telling me? You think you're going to tell me to calm down? Like, see, this is what I mean. Like, sometimes when you try to have, like, a nice movie set, if you're too nice, you end up with someone like him or a Nazi. People who, they have weird intentions. So, yeah. Overall, I'm really happy with the short movie. Like, one thing that I will say that, was fun to do with that guy. Is that one of the things that's in the short movie is a mummy. And I really wanted to make and build and create my own mummy, a la Jack Pierce's mummy from the Universal horror monster movies. So I turned this actor into a full mummy. And I spent so much time and detail and work on doing that. And it was really, really, really fun. And so you guys are going to get to see my own version of the mummy. I didn't take any shortcuts either. I did a lot of work. I spent like 3 to 4 to 5 hours doing this mummy, including all the prep work with creating bandages and staining them and everything. Another thing that was really fun was I really enjoyed one thing that I didn't have to worry about is that I actually let my lead actress do my makeup, because in the film, I play an evil clown. And it was really fun to let her to do the makeup, because it was like she got to feel like she was really contributing to this project, and like she was adding in her own special touch into the short movie. And so that was really cool too. And I'm trying to think if there's any other things that I could say about the making of this movie. Just in general, I'm glad it's finally over, because it's so cool to finally have completed something and to say that, like, yeah, I'm making 2 full movies and I'm making a Goosebumps fan series that's 16 episodes long, and still I managed to make a short movie in the middle of doing those things. So there really is no excuse, you know. I mean, it's just, it's not even debatable at this point. So yeah, I had a lot of fun, despite the outburst guy who will never be working with me again. But yeah, I had fun, and I can't wait for you guys to see it. I would describe it, I was really inspired off of the Twilight Zone. So I hope that you guys can see that in the short movie, the kind of Twilight Zone kind of feel to it. And I also wanted it to have like an early 2000s and 1990s feel. So when I was watching all of those early 2000s horror movies, I was kind of doing it just, you know, kind of just to get like inspired and to get ideas and to just get that 90s, 2000s feel in my brain. So, please like this video. It was a long one. That's what she said. And then please comment. And then please subscribe to our channel. If you'd like to see more honest videos like this. And yeah, I hope that you guys check out County Fear when it finally comes out. It'll probably be in a month or two. And yeah, goodbye everybody. See you soon.